Hello and welcome to this edition of Criminal Justice Natters with me, Ed Johnston. Today we are joined by a viewer who reached out to me a number of months ago about coming on the show to tell her story about covert policing, surveillance, and basically a complete botch job by Merseyside police in the northwest of England. Amanda in this video refers to a number of documents that she's received from the police and sort of other agencies. And I've previously seen them. Obviously, there's no way to share them with you now, but I can verify the fact that I've seen them. And I say that because if you listen to if I told you this story in a pub, I don't believe for 1 second you would believe me that this is true. It's a truly harrowing account of an incident that spanned a decade, and the legacy and impact of that is still going on today. So give Amanda a listen. Hi, Amanda. Thanks for joining us this morning. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk to me about the sort of undercover sort of covert policing that you experienced. Yeah. So I wonder if you could tell me in sort of an order what happened.
Well, we decided to move countries. We're from the west of Ireland, and we have 3 children. We decided to move to Southport, near to my parents, so that we could just have a new life and, you know, just start a new chapter in our lives. And we encountered a very young man who was trying to take his child from a house. So we stopped him. Like I even said to him, "This isn't the way to go. It's the courts you need to go through." So that was fine. Never thought anything of it. Moved stuff out of our van. About the 2nd of January, we get a knock on the door real early in the morning, and it's a woman, and she says she's a police officer from Merseyside Police, and but she's in plain clothes, and she comes in and she starts asking me really strange questions like, have I made any alterations to this house? And we'd literally just moved in, so I thought, no, this is very odd. She spoke to me very badly, so I just let it go. Never really thought anything more. Then we started to get more people during the time as it went on. We started to get more people coming to our house, but they seemed to be off, if that makes any sense. And unfortunately, during the journey over to England, I'd fallen in the snow, and I didn't realize that I'd injured myself badly. And I'd actually dislocated C6 and C7 in my neck. Mm-hmm. So on a good day, I would look quite a mean-looking woman on a good day. So if I'm in pain, I barely speak. If I'm in pain. So that was fine. And I just thought something was strange going on with the house. So I just put it down to cultural differences. You know, I didn't understand anything that was happening in England at that time. So we just started getting more and more people into the house, and we had a SSE man come in, and he started to play this identifying marks on my body, and everybody was speaking to me like really badly. Usually, if I was fit and healthy, I would never allow anybody to speak to me like that. And I just assumed that it would be over within 3 to 4 weeks. And I thought, oh, you know, it's just a big mistake. It's fine. It's no bother. But then it started to get more serious. And we got a letter in the post looking for a DWP, looking for a 4th child's birth cert. And I thought, okay, they don't know who we are, so that's fine. So I said, no, I have 3 children. And I sent birth certs back to them, and it just started to get more and more bizarre. So because I was quiet, I didn't want to alarm anybody, but I knew from the very start that it was Merseyside police officers who were pretending to be other people. So I thought I'll let them get on with their jobs, because I wasn't fit enough to stand up and say what's going on. And at that point, I thought my children are the safest they could possibly be, because we're surrounded by police officers. The next door neighbors, there was children that started to arrive, like maybe 2 or 3 children. And then by the end of it, there was like 30 children. And everybody was staring at this house, but it wasn't my house, it was the house behind. And I thought, oh, once the police have figured out they've made a mistake, everything will be okay. So we got a phone call from our landlord to say that on the 5th of May, they were going to come and dig up the back garden. So I knew it was the police. So I was thinking, oh, this will be fine. I'll gear myself up, and I'll be able to say to them, you've made this huge mistake, but don't panic. I'm quite reasonable. You know, everything's okay. Nobody's died. We're all okay. And unfortunately, it didn't go that way. And I believe what Merseyside Police did was that they sat for 4 months conducting an undercover investigation on that I had murdered my own child.
Okay.
But we don't have a fourth child. So because they didn't ask me any questions, they were going around, they didn't go to people that actually knew me. So if they'd gone to people that had actually known me, it would have been very, very quickly cleared up. So on the 28th of April, they came to dig up the back garden, but they came as an undercover drainage company called Mr. Sparks. And there was no advertisement. You know how advertisements on vans and things are free?
Yeah.
There was no number on this van. They'd also brought two cadaver dogs. And I found out later it was 2 members of the Home Office with like a density probe. And my husband worked with them all the time. So we knew what they were. They even brought a hearse and an undertaker, which parked on the other side of the road. So everybody in that vicinity knew that we had police at the house at that point. So that I'd gone outside and I'd said, look, I know who you are. You know, I'm trying to be really calm here and say, don't panic. I know that there's things that have happened. There's been ways that we've been spoken to. I can get over that. I can get over that. Just, you know, tell us everything's okay. So once they'd figured out the mistake on the 28th of April, it just got insane. We were now in the realms of insanity. And nobody came back. The police officer that I did speak to, I think when they found out the mistake, I think they felt guilty. And he hands me 2 packets of crisps and 3 tubs of pork pies, saying that my children might have liked some lunch. And I thought, this is getting even more bizarre, because now I have Merseyside Police having a picnic on my garden with no explanation whatsoever. And we're literally, these are the only people that we've met since we've moved to this country. And I was thinking, oh, they're going to come back because this is the police. It's not, it's not like some dude down the road. It's the police. And they never came back. And my children we were I can't even begin to describe how terror that we had. So I made the decision to go to the children's school to say, this has happened. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. So I'm going to take the children out of school, because at that point we thought we'll just go home because it'll be safer. Sorry,
That's okay.
it's really difficult to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fine. I even sent the children back to school, because I thought, if I keep everything calm, then somebody might think, oh, she's quite calm, we'll speak to them. and they didn't. And my middle son, who was 12 at the time, comes back from school and says, the teachers, the PE teacher has taken him into a room and they've locked the door behind them. And there's two male teachers, and they've asked him to strip his clothes off so that they can inspect his body. Because unfortunately, even though when you tell the truth, it sounds like you're telling a bizarre story. So the school didn't believe my account and then rang the police. And unfortunately, the police panicked and denied all knowledge of us. So as it looks like I'm trying to evade cases of child abuse because I have injuries. So I've walked into the school with a walking stick, and then my middle child has marks on his back, which they've assumed are whip marks and not stretch marks. So they think we've whipped these children. And so I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So by the 9th of May, we get a phone call from Sefton's Children's Services, and they said, "Oh, we're going to come and take the children." So they've been, I think they do a court, I'm not sure, and they've issued Section 47, which I hadn't got a clue what was being spoken. So it turns out that Section 47 is when your children are in mortal danger of you and they need to take them. So I've said to her, you need to ring Merseyside Police and tell them what you're doing and who you're doing it to. And about 10 minutes later, this woman rings me back like, oh, there was no problem at all. Oh, sorry about that, Mrs. Kennedy. Like, sorry. And nobody's ever spoken to us. So
that was the police that apologised there, was it?
No, that's Sefton's Children's Services.
The social service, right? Okay.
Then everybody's gone on to deny that they've ever met me. Apparently I'm just this innocent Irish woman who's crazy, but they don't take the children because I'm not the easiest person to deal with. So when I get annoyed, I get very annoyed. So that's fine. But I was praying that I rang Merseyside Police back to say, please, just somebody come back and speak, because we're totally lost at this point. I don't know which way is up. And we have 3 kids who everybody in our house is terrified. So nobody comes back. Nobody comes back. And in the end, I've bought a tent. I've bought a tent and we've taken off, and we end up in a place called Westward Ho in a caravan. And unfortunately, when you figure out when you have a problem with the police and the police have a problem with you, that's not a position anybody wants to be in. It's terrifying. So we just took off. We took off. But I thought, because I'd calmed down, I tried to calm down as much as I could so I could go back and say to them, look, I know you've made a mistake. It's okay. But none of us have died. I know you've accused me of child murder, and that's really painful. But no child has died. So it's only to me that's the problem. So I was thinking, I'll suck it up for the sake of the kids, because, I have three boys. So unfortunately, it gets more serious. And I'm trying to make out that this is like, it's okay, it's okay. But unfortunately, we did get a solicitor, and we got the solicitor in Liverpool. And I went and I asked him to send them a letter to say, look, just explain it. Unfortunately, it didn't go like that. It didn't go like that. And instead, I got threatened and intimidated to the point of I thought that they were going to murder us that night. Now, Merseyside Police will come out and say, no, we didn't do anything to this woman. That's fine. I have no problem, because If they want to maintain that they never came near me, it's fine. But I have plenty of documentation here to say, yeah, that this happened, and they've intimidated us, and they have done everything they can to make sure that I don't speak. So we got the solicitor dumped us. We've never had any help. I've had to tell the truth constantly, which then got us into more trouble and punishment and suffer just because of this mistake. And we did nothing wrong.
In terms of the solicitor didn't want to act for you anymore. What was the reason for that?
Well, it was actually quite funny. He was on the phone to me. So he was saying, "Oh, it's me, it's not you, don't worry." The reason why he couldn't carry on with this was because he didn't have my phone number. So I thought, which was fairly amazing considering we were talking on the phone at that time. So it's everything is just ridiculous. I took recordings. I went through every procedure I could think of. I took recordings of them, and the recordings are ridiculous because what I'm talking about is murder. I'm talking about a child murder. I'm talking, these are serious, serious discussions, and people are just speaking like nobody's ever said, "Oh, Mrs. Kennedy, I think you've gone a bit mental there." Nobody's ever said that. They've just carried on like that everything is perfectly fine. But I've never found a procedure that says that they're able to go into an innocent family's house, go undercover for 4 months, surround us, follow me to a different country. They put a tracker on my car. I know it sounds like I'm talking.
So did this start when you were in Ireland before you moved to Southport?
It happened. No, in Southport. We were literally there 10 days. 10 days.
So is Westward Ho in Ireland? Sorry.
No, Westward Ho is down in, I think, near Devon.
Oh, okay.
We actually went because I had an exclamation mark on the bottom. We just, at that point, we're locked in this country and we have no idea of what's going on, who's after us, because all of a sudden I've become enemy of the state without even leaving the house. So I know I'm pretty spectacular when things go wrong, but I didn't even leave the house. These people came to me. So when they'd figured out the mistake, it was like rats leaving a sinking ship.
Yeah. So the first policewoman that came round to your house, and she was asking you about alterations to the property, and so what was the rationale for her turning up? What did she say to you?
I think the rationale, what they were doing was they were seeing if I'd made any alterations to the house so that they could look at the blueprints of the house.
Yeah.
So if there was any extra gap or a little, we had energy men coming in and they measured every room in the house. When I was able to ask them questions, what I was asking them was rhetorical questions because I was hoping that one of them would go, "I think this woman knows what's going on," but they didn't. And then the time went on until it got to the point of where I thought, I actually can't say anything because I'm going to freak these people out. So I knew they'd reach fever pitch before the 28th of April because my youngest son at the time was 4. And because I was incapable of moving, and when you have a spinal injury, it takes about 14 days for it to present itself. So that's why I was able to go back to Ireland.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, my youngest son was playing in a sandpit, which was just outside this window that I could see out. And unfortunately, he found something that they had left. And I knew it was them because if it was anybody else, because were being watched, there's no way a third party could have gone in to the back of my house and left a yellow-handled carving knife. So Noah, my youngest, found this yellow handled carving knife. And I thought, oh, what you're doing is you're checking to see if I'm a normal person would ring the police. But at that time, I'm thinking, you people have gone, you've hit fever pitch. There's like nothing I can do now. All I can do is just hope for the best that somebody's going to go, oh, it's perfectly fine, but they didn't.
So, and you've had no accountability
None
from
whatsoever, bar this
anybody.
letter, bar this letter. Now, the letter that we received was 7 months. The solicitor told me that the police have, it's 3 months and 21 days to reply.
Yeah.
Merseyside Police took it to the day.
Okay.
So we got this. I got this letter back, and it's six sentences back, and it tells me that a previous tenant found or saw a man carrying a bag into this house, which contained a body, which I thought was amazing because
Mm.
all I kept thinking about was a Pink Panther, like brown paper and string. I thought,
Yeah.
how are you going to figure that out? And that he buried this body in the back garden. And apparently, Merseyside Police had decided to protect me from the murderer, but not the children and not my husband, just me.
Mm.
Which I thought was a bit strange because I had nothing to do with this. So all they had to do was to tell me that this had happened and we could move out. That's why I'm thinking the explanation that we got was, as bizarre as it sounds, was the only explanation they could come up with, other than saying, "Oh, yeah, we thought you'd murdered somebody because you
Mm.
look a bit mean." Because they never even spoke to me. Like, they never even said, "Oh, like, where are you from?"
No.
And when they followed me to Ireland, I literally brought them everywhere my friends were and where I felt safe. I brought them with me to there, hoping that they would speak to one of them. And they never did. They never
No.
did. And I went to one of the rural, like, there's in the middle of nowhere. So technically, when I go to visit my friends, I'm bringing a murderer plus Merseyside police officers. So
Mm.
the thing is, I can put them on the ferry and I can put them in Westport. So that's a big problem. That's a big problem, because why are you in a different country?
Yeah.
Like, you're serving police officers, and I even know that you need special permission from the Home Office to go to Ireland on holiday as a
Mm.
British police officer. So whoever allowed them to go, they must have lost their mind when they figured out they'd made such a horrendous mistake.
So, did this letter ever say sorry?
No,
No. No.
no,
No,
no.
nothing.
I even have a letter from, we went to Graham Stewart, the MP, to see that if he could, I thought what I'll do is I'll go to somebody equally as in authority, just to say, look, tell these people to calm down. So he'd actually given me the replies that both Sefton Council and Merseyside Police gave. He actually gave me the SIO's details. So I have that woman's name, badge number, phone number, email, everything. But I made sure I never I never used them, because I didn't want anybody to say, "Oh, you're harassing people."
Mm.
So she actually stated that there was no point in helping me, because apparently I'm a delusional fantasist, and said that I was part of police protection. So they've even said to a journalist that I consented to it. I consented to everything,
Yeah.
which I never did.
Okay.
So they've done everything that they can, and we just carry on. I even got a letter back from them saying they actually put betterment back into the garden, like they were Alan Titchmarsh. You know, honestly, I know it sounds crazy, but
Yeah.
it was funny. It was funny. It was just so ridiculous. It just became almost hysterical. Like, it was just insane, and I could never get them just to say, "Calm down."
Mm.
Like, in actual fact, I would have kept their dirty secret to the grave, because
Yeah.
nobody wants to come out and say, "Oh, do you know what? By the way, I think I've been accused of murder. Oh, and by the way, would you like, I'm being protected from a murderer as well. So, would you like a cup of tea?"
Mm.
Like, they've ruined our lives. They've just, when people say, "Oh, they've ruined it," no, they completely and utterly destroyed it without one thought. And all they did it for was to save embarrassment. And that was it. That was it. Nothing else. There was no reason. There was no reason to do this to us. None. And they will never come out and say that they did this. So in actual fact, I don't really care, because their explanation is equally, if not more, demented than my version. So basically, the reason why I'm doing this is because I've had enough. I've had enough.
So, in terms of their explanation that they were going to, they are protecting you from a murderer or what have you. Did you ever feel any form of threat? Is there any truth in that, like even a tiny bit?
Only from them. Only from them. Okay. Yeah, I've never, because I thought, because they've said this, and every man I've ever met in this country is a stranger to me. So unfortunately, they've put us in a very dangerous situation where I think that, I'm trying to be rational to not attack anybody. So I thought, well, I'll combat that. And I worked in pubs. So I worked predominantly basically with men, just to be able to control the fear that I have. So of everything they've done to us, I do the opposite, just so we can live, just so we can live.
And I know your this was covered by local media. It was in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Was there any pushback from the police once that story?
No, because the thing is, they've spent their time telling people that I'm crazy, but they did forget one fundamental thing: is they did come undercover. So the only person that actually knew that they came undercover was me. So if they hadn't have panicked, all they would have had to have done was to deny it. But I'm not I lived on the side of a mountain in Ireland, so unfortunately, I am quite wild. So if you send me paperwork, I'm going to hang you with it. So all they've done is associated themselves constantly with me. So I'm saying that they come undercover. Merseyside Police said, yes, we came undercover. Why would you come undercover? You're the police. Like, come as police. It's okay. You're allowed to come in anywhere you want. You don't need to. Unfortunately, they did pick the right person to mess around with, because I would have understood. And I did forgive it, because for the simple reason is it's an allegation of murder. And, this is a serious incident. So I'm like, oh, okay, you just carry on with your job. We'll be fine here in the corner. We'll talk in a bit, and both of us will move on. We'll be fine. But that didn't happen. So they can go fuck themselves now. So, no, John Murphy sent me the letter. So
who's
that's
John
why
Murphy? Sorry.
John Murphy is the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police. So even that itself is a bit strange, that I would have in my possession a letter from the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police. That, like, I'm supposed to be an innocent Irish woman who has no dealings with the police. But the journalist covered us. But I found it beautiful, but the poor journalist, I don't think, truly appreciated it. When Merseyside Police told them to tell me that there was no murderer after me after 9 years, it was him that told me. And I actually laughed, because I thought, oh, fantastic, you've put the final nail in my coffin. Fantastic. It was a beautiful moment. But if the journalist had any doubts about what I was saying in that moment, they did it themselves. So they gave him the confirmation that, yeah, they've done this to her. So, and I actually congratulated him, because it only took him 4 days to get them to speak to him, but it took me over 9 years, and no one spoke to me. So, oh no, I don't, like, the thing is, they wouldn't have found anything on me on paper, because I'm really awkward. And in Ireland, I would never sign contracts, because I understood enough that as soon as I touched the contract, it would become null and void. So that's how I played my life for years, So they wouldn't have found me on paper. But what they would have found out is that I am very difficult to deal with. So I do everything nice and polite. So it's basically just so I can get real close to you and uh, find out what you were doing in my house when we're in your office. So, and I don't mind being in small rooms because that's my job.
Yeah.
I'm in small rooms constantly with people that are losing their mind. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't have intimidated me at all. But no, they made their bed so they can. I don't mind being covered up. I just hope they haven't put me anywhere that's any other cover ups because uh, I don't mind going for the hinges.
And there's been no further sort of run-ins with the police,
No, they
or
won't come near me.
won't come near you?
They won't come near me because, in all honesty, you know, they've put my children in danger. My children have nearly been killed. We lost count. We lost count because my mother even said, "Oh, do you not think that you're putting them in danger?" And I'm like, "We've never been taken out of it. That's the
Yeah.
problem. We've never been taken out of it." And they just want to carry on like this. They're just embarrassed. That's all it
Yeah.
is. They spent 4 months on top of an innocent woman who did nothing wrong. Their budget must have been massive, massive. So when they'd offered me through the letter, it's actually for trespass, but I think trespass comes with without damages.
Okay.
So and I thought it's a bit strange that if you're offering trespass, but apparently I consented with that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be trespass. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything they've said is I'm being protected, I'm consented, everything is mighty, but nobody's actually ever spoken to me. So, and I think they're a bit too frightened to actually speak to me because um, if they'd actually found out about me, they would have figured that out fairly quickly. So, yeah,
So
unfortunately,
how long ago was this in its entirety then?
about over 10 years.
Over
10
10
years,
years.
yeah. So we've been like this. We became homeless as soon as we left Westward Hall. So we've been homeless for a year in total. We've I've had numerous breakdowns. They asked the journalist why it took me so long to do this, and I'm like, it's an authority in this country. When they don't want you to be found, you're not going to be found. So I could spend my whole time outside screaming, and I still would not be found. It's just the way the world is. But the way I look at it is they associate themselves with me, and that's enough. So it doesn't really matter what I'm saying, because I just think, oh, don't believe what I'm saying, because in actual fact you'd feel more pity for us than you would anything else. But believe what the police said. It is the police. So they reckon that there's a murderer after me, but it wasn't important enough to tell me who he was or what he looked like, or
No.
you know, or even to come and tell me that. You know, they waited 7 months to tell me that. So my what they've worked out is my children are worth £125 each, and they're worth 2 packets of crisps and 3 tubs of pork pies, and that's Merseyside Police's compensation for my children. So
and how did you obviously affected your children as well? They
yeah.
Still today.
Oh yeah, still today. Yeah, yeah. It's because it's the police. If it was somebody else, you'd just go, oh, fair enough. They're in a gang. They're in a gang, and they don't want to be embarrassed. So, you know, they're going to do anything they can just to not have that happen. So it's been very difficult. But I've made sure that the children don't hate anybody. You know, it took me a long time to say, look, it's just they're trying to frighten us. There's nobody coming in, but they couldn't sleep. So we've had to, I slept at the front door, and my husband used to sleep with them because they were just too frightened to sleep.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I was trying not to.
No. It's a
I'm
shocking
trying not
story
to.
for what you've had to go through, and for the prolonged period of time and no accountability, and often at the start as well, such a denial of
Oh,
we're not this, we're not that, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden you get a letter saying, well, yeah, we were. And
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
the funny thing was, if I know they were trying to gaslight me, and at that point,
Mm.
if they had said aliens had come to take us, I'd be like, oh, fantastic, it's aliens, because it was the fact of they needed to speak. I didn't
Yeah.
actually care what they were saying. It was just the fact of just stand in front of me, tell me that everything's okay, and I'll be fine. Like, I'll be fine. I just need you to say that. But they
Yeah.
didn't. They didn't. So they decided to go down a different route, and it's not a route that I would have gone down. So even when we got to the solicitor and I'd explained to him what had happened, he actually gave me a panic attack in the office because he said, we've never, Irish people never have a problem with the police. And the only people that we know of a problem is the Guildford Four. And I lost my mind. I was like, oh no, geez, no, 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 no. They're like, that's real serious. And I'm trying to be like, no, 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 it's fine. Sure, look, we're all still alive. Everybody's fine.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I've been for ages trying to contain it, so it wasn't such a big deal. But unfortunately, I couldn't contain it. It was a big deal. So especially when I found out that it's because half the things they were doing was hilarious. On the ferry, I'm sat with my elderly father, and there's like seven men sat around me in the corner of the bar in the ferry, but nobody's speaking.
Mm.
So it's really, and especially being an Irish woman, everybody speaks,
Yeah.
Geez, I get your whole story out here by the end of the evening.
Yeah.
It was just real strange. And then one of them followed me out to the deck when I was having a cigarette and he was like, oh, so where are you going? And you're on a ferry to Ireland. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've got on the wrong place, maybe. But it was utter, like some of the things they were coming out with, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I told Stephen because my husband's an archaeologist and God love him. Academically, he's fantastic, but he wouldn't even notice if the house was burning down around him unless it was covered in dirt and it was like 2,000 years old.
Yeah.
So the time I told him was when we had the truancy officer who'd forgotten that he'd sent me letters through the post, but he'd forgotten he'd sent it to me in the morning. So he came around to take photos of it. But he'd forgotten that he was supposed to be a truancy officer and he became a police officer again. And he orders us from the sitting room to the kitchen. And I have two elderly dogs with us. And he says he's allergic to dogs. And I thought, well, that's a really strange bloody job to go into, considering children in this country usually have dogs
Yeah.
in their house. So it's like a peanut allergy. You wouldn't work in
Yeah.
a peanut factory.
Yeah.
But I'm telling Stephen, unfortunately, in the hallway saying, that's a police officer, and we don't panic.
Mm.
You need to get him out of the house. I'll explain what's going on. But, because in my mind, I thought, if I'm the only person that knows what's going on, at least I'm containing the panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't. What I should have actually done, I think what happened was I underreacted. So, but because of my underreaction, they took that as stupidity and ignorance. But in actual fact, what they should have known was I was right beside them every second minute of the time that they were there. And if they'd asked somebody in Ireland that I had been nice and polite and let you in the house, they would have told you, get out of the house because she's trapping you in a false sense of security. She's going to go mental, and now you're stuck in the house with her. So it's not that I'm violent or anything, but I do have a problem, and my problem is I will open my mouth, and I actually don't care if you say I'm Admiral. I don't care. All that it is you went and got a job. You went and got an interview, fair play. But that's no basis on for me. But they just they took it and made such a hames of it that it's ridiculous now. And nobody's ever apologized. Like nobody's
No.
ever said geez, sorry about that. You know, like, what did they think I was going to do? You know, my children have nearly been murdered because of a mistake. And everybody then, oh, well, you know, we thought your children were being abused. It's these people that have abused my children, and I can't even complain about it.
When
And
you say when you say your children have almost been murdered, what happened there?
because unfortunately, because the police have they've given us such a terror, and we don't know what's going on. Unfortunately, your own emotions does it to you. So I lost my mind. I stayed up first. I knew I was going to lose my mind. So what I did was I sent my children back to my mother, the two older children,
Hmm.
and because I thought I'm going to hit a wall somewhere because of my back and because of my neck. I'm in absolute agony. My mind is just going. So I stayed up for 72 hours, and I basically put myself into a psychotic uh,
Yeah.
break, and I tried to hang myself in the bathroom. But unfortunately, because I'm so fat, I actually snapped the shower cord. So
Yeah.
I came downstairs and I said to my husband that I've now become a danger to myself. So
Hmm.
this is what the police do. It's basically psychological warfare, and you do it to yourself. You do it to yourself because all they have to do is step back and say, "Oh, sure, we didn't do anything to this person. We did nothing," and that's what they do. So I think it's called, when you're trying to explain it to somebody, it's like your hair is on fire.
Hmm.
So I think it's an actual syndrome where you're trying to get all this information out, but in actual fact, it's coming out like you're crazy.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time to become coherent and to stop shaking. So it took me about 3 years to stop physically shaking. Uh, so it's been absolutely terrifying. There's not even words for it.
And just before we sort of finish up, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's very emotional still, but
Oh yeah. Geez.
have you been able to rebuild any semblance of a life?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
No,
this is why I did this, because we'd been homeless for a year, and the thing about speaking the truth, if you're not somebody of standing, you might as well scream into the wind. So it took me a long time to be able to get a house. It took me a long time to be able to get a job. I always think there's no point in surviving something if you're not going to thrive in it.
hmm.
So, oh yeah, I got us back on our feet. I have one son is in uni doing politics.
Yeah.
So, oh no, we got back on our feet. That's why I was it. You know, when people say, "Oh, I never stick my head above the parapet," you know, I can't. I'm the type of woman now that I will haul my fat Irish ass up on it and do a jig on it. So, I that's the problem I have. I'm just one of those women, you know. If you have a problem, I'll come sort it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why it was even more ironic that it happened to me, because I'm perfectly capable to sort things out. It's not like I was a child where, you know,
Yeah.
you couldn't have told me these things. But that's what Merseyside Police wanted to do. That's what they've done. I can't help them anymore. So, you know. But I will
No, that,
write it all down.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll probably have to put it in the fiction section. I think they believe me. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. But yeah, yeah.
But I want to thank you for
Oh no, thank
sharing your story, and I agree. I mean, it's almost impossible to believe, and I
you.
know
Yeah,
I've spoken to you previously,
yeah,
and you've shown me the letters from the police,
yeah,
and all the other documentation. But if you
yeah.
just told me this, if we were
Oh,
sat in a
you.
pub and you told me this, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. You'd be like, "Is there any place soft you can go to, love?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, this is why I did it this way, because it doesn't matter what I'm saying. My version of events make it's irrelevant. It's what they say, and
Yeah.
what they've said is utter. utter madness. So, you know, either way, it's like if you know, I love being in people's corridors, or you know, because I'm there. And if I'm not there, why am I there? And if I am there, why am I there? So either way, you see, I don't mind. I'm not the type of woman you want to associate with, because I'm going to get you into trouble. You know, but it's I'm perfectly fine. It's just yeah, I don't think like other people think, unfortunately. Strangely.
Well, again, thank you very much
Oh no, thank you,
for
Ed. You've been
such an.
amazing. You've been amazing.
I
You
will.
know, we
I'll get
appreciate it.
no problem at all. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Buy a pint.
Wonderful. I'll hold you to that.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Cheers.
no.
I want to thank Amanda for coming on the show today and sharing her story with us. And basically, I think the story just needs to have a voice. So thank you, Amanda, for giving up your time today to tell us your story. And if any other viewers have any stories they wish to share, please do get in touch through the usual social media channels. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you soon.